Hey guys, this is Haley, and in today's video I'm going to be talking all about outside and rabbits. So I wanted to touch on a little bit if rabbits can live outside and whether or not they can play outside. So the short answer to this question is yes and no, but let me dive into this a little bit deeper because there's a lot of facts that goes into this. As many of you guys may know, I am very pro house rabbits. Obviously my rabbits are indoors. I believe all rabbits should be kept indoors, but I thought this video was important to explain why I think rabbits should live inside and whether rabbits can play outside and stuff like that. So first I want to touch on some of the dangers of rabbits being outside. Regardless if your rabbit is living outside or just playing outside, these things need to be taken into consideration. So the first danger you need to be aware of is bugs. Now this may seem like a very small thing, but it's actually very, very dangerous. So a couple of bugs that definitely can be dangerous or harmful to rabbits are ticks, fleas, mites, mosquitoes. So ticks are probably one of my most feared things about rabbits being outside, especially deer ticks. Deer ticks are very, very tiny. They're about the size of the tip of a needle. Deer ticks spread a lot of diseases, especially Lyme disease. That is the major one. Other ticks, there are other types of ticks and they spread. There's a lot of different diseases ticks can spread, but a lot of these diseases can be very, very harmful and deadly to animals, humans, etc. Another very, very important thing to remember is mosquitoes. Mosquitoes carry deadly diseases. They may not be as deadly to humans, but there is a couple of different diseases they can spread to rabbits. The main one to be aware of is mosquitoes carry a disease that is deadly to European rabbits, which if you did not know, our domesticated rabbits are actually European rabbits. They're different than cottontails, which are what you normally see outside if you live in the United States. So this disease actually does not affect cottontails, but only European rabbits. And it's a very confusing name and it has like a bunch of letters and numbers. And there's also tons of different strands of this disease. There are some vaccines that you can give your rabbits for this mosquito disease, and I highly recommend it if you live in the areas that those vaccines are available. I think European countries have them and some parts of Canada are now starting to get them. However, the United States does not allow us to vaccinate rabbits, simply because it's not like researched enough, I guess, in the US. Thankfully, there's only been a couple of cases reported in the United States for this specific disease that is carried by mosquitoes. So thankfully, mostly it's in Canada right now, but I'm assuming it's going to drop down in the United States eventually. It is killing thousands of rabbits. If you're in an area where you can get the vaccine, I probably recommend it. I have not done research on it, so please do research, talk to your vet, whatever you have to do. And of course, there's fleas and mites. Fleas, of course, are never a good thing. They can infest your home. They can spread to other animals. I do believe they actually bite the animals as well, which is not good. And then mites, of course, even house rabbits can get mites. It's actually fairly common. They tend to pick it up from their birth mother and then it just kind of is always with them, but mites do need to be treated as they do cause a lot of skin irritation. There's also ear mites, which are not good at all, and you need to treat those as well if you have them. Another very important thing to consider when your rabbits are outside is animals. Other animals are very dangerous to rabbits. As most of you should know, rabbits are prey animals, and predatory animals love to hunt and kill rabbits. A couple of main ones are dogs. Even if you don't have a dog, your neighbor might have a dog who gets loose. They could run, get your rabbit. Even if your own dogs are fine with your rabbits, that does not mean your neighbor's dog or the dog across the neighborhood is fine with rabbits. Dogs kill rabbits all the time and it is not something you want to see. There's other animals like weasels. Weasels' main prey are rabbits, so they will kill a rabbit if given the chance. Another big thing to consider is birds, especially if the area your rabbit is in isn't covered. Birds like, I don't know, hawks and stuff like that can swoop down, pick up rabbits. It happens all the time. Another big thing to consider when your rabbit's outside, and probably one of the most deadly or detrimental things is temperature. Heat and cold can be extremely dangerous for your bunnies. Rabbits should never be in temperatures over 75 degrees Fahrenheit. This is because rabbits are very, very, very prone to heat stroke. Because of this, never keep your rabbits in areas above 75 degrees Fahrenheit. If your house is not air conditioned, there are several ways to try to bring the temperature down where your rabbit is. I have a video on how to keep your rabbit cool that I'll link in the iCard. So the cold is something else you need to consider. They can grow more fur in the winter times. However, this still doesn't mean that your rabbits can be in severe cold and be completely fine. It's generally recommended that rabbits are not in temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This is probably the lowest a rabbit should be that would be, you know, somewhat comfortable to them. Also, if it is too cold, I'm not sure the exact number, but rabbits can freeze to death, just like other animals can. So now that I've talked a little bit about the dangers, I'm gonna talk about, you know, living outside and playing outside. So first off, living outside. I personally do not believe it is ever an option. I don't believe it is ever safe to do so. In my opinion, there is way too many dangers for rabbits, and honestly, why would you risk your rabbit's life with all of those dangers if you could bring them inside and completely avoid all of that? To me, it just doesn't make sense. Rabbits who live indoors actually live happier, healthier lives and even live longer. A lot of the times, hutches, which are the average cage that rabbits are housed in outside, they are not properly good for rabbits. First of all, they're normally way too small. Rabbits need at least 2 feet by 4 feet for a cage. However, I personally wouldn't house a rabbit in something like that permanently. And honestly, I don't think hutches are safe enough. They don't provide enough shelter whatsoever for the bunnies. So a lot of people are kind of housing their rabbits in something known as a rabbit shed. It's basically like a little house shed thing outside, and they put their rabbits in there and that's where they live. Even though this is a lot more enclosed than a hutch would be, I personally still don't think a rabbit should ever be housed in a shed like this, for a couple of reasons. Even though these houses have windows, doors, roofs, and sometimes people put like heaters or air conditioners in there, even all of that, I personally still would not house a rabbit in it. Rabbits who are outside do not have the same amount of human interaction as indoor rabbits do. And this is very, very important for multiple reasons. One, for the happiness of your rabbit, and two, for the safety. Rabbits can get sick and die very, very quickly. A rabbit can die within 12 to 24 hours after becoming ill. And a rabbit who's outside is not gonna get as much human interaction as a rabbit indoors. You can argue at me until you're blue in the face, but I guarantee you, you're not gonna go sit in your rabbit shed for 3 hours like you would sit on the couch for 3 hours in your house. Like, that's just not gonna happen. And when your rabbit's indoors, they can run around with you while you're relaxing or whatever. Human interaction is such a very important tool for being a proper rabbit owner. Another thing is to build a shed that is completely safe for a bunny, meaning properly insulated like a house would be, air conditioning, heating, all of that. That would cost probably thousands of dollars. And if you were gonna spend that much on your bunny, why not just bring them inside and get an X-Pen for 60 bucks? Like, one quick thing I do want to mention is I know I'm gonna get a ton of comments from kids who are still in their parents' household, and a lot of the times parents may not want the rabbit to come inside. Actually, my mom didn't let me have Mocha inside right away. He was an outside rabbit when I first got him, simply because I didn't know house rabbits existed back then. So it was really hard to convince my mom to bring him inside. So I do understand the struggle of still living in your parents' home and not being able to do something because your parents say you can't. So first of all, if you don't have a bunny and you want a bunny, make sure that your parents 100% are okay with your rabbit being indoors. If they aren't, don't get a rabbit. There's no reason to get a rabbit and then not be able to care or provide for it properly. Another thing is, if you already have bunnies and your parents are forcing them to be outside, don't give up. Keep asking them why they don't want the rabbits indoors. If they give you examples like they smell or they're dirty or they make a mess or stuff like that, try to bring facts and different things to them and explain to them that these things aren't actually true. They're actually fairly clean animals, stuff like that. So I do know it is very hard when you aren't in control of your house and you can't necessarily do something against your parents' will. But the good thing is, as soon as you turn 18, you can move out, you can get your own apartment. So now I'm gonna talk a little bit about rabbits playing outside. So first of all, rabbits do not need to play outside. This is not something that is vitally important to your rabbit, and your rabbit simply doesn't need to. However, some rabbit owners do choose to let their rabbits play outside. If your rabbit is gonna play outside, you need to take these precautions and also remember the dangers that I mentioned earlier. If your rabbit is playing outside, they must be watched constantly. Like, you can't just like leave them out there for 30 minutes while you go do the dishes or something. Like, no, you have to be out there watching them all the time. Like, don't leave them. You must have a proper pen for them that is at least 3 feet tall, if not 4 feet, so that the rabbit cannot jump over it and escape. It is also best to have a cover on top of your pen in case a bird was to swoop down and get them or catch them or something. Even if you are out there with your rabbits, it is still possible for a bird to do this. Another huge thing is grass and other toxic plants. Grass can have toxic things in it, like you should never let your rabbit on grass that a dog has peed on or any other sort of animal has urinated on. You also want to make sure that grass has not been treated, like with weed killer or any other chemicals that may have been sprayed or put onto your lawn. Another thing is that rabbits dig. European rabbits actually live underground in these tunnel systems called warrens, and because of that, if you let a rabbit outside and let them in grass or dirt, they can and most likely will dig and try to dig a tunnel. Now, this can be very dangerous because obviously they could escape the pen, so you do need to keep a very close eye on your rabbit because of that. There are options for you to let your rabbit outside on maybe concrete or like a wooden deck. If you are gonna do so, make sure that you provide padding, as these floorings are very hard and abrasive. Another thing you need to be aware of is temperature. Like I mentioned before, never let your rabbit in a temperature above 75 degrees Fahrenheit or below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. But you also need to be careful not to bring your rabbit outside if the temperature is more than a 20-degree difference than what they're used to. You can put something on the back of your rabbit's neck called revolution. This helps prevent your rabbit from picking up fleas or mites when it is outside. However, this does not prevent your rabbit from picking up ticks or from mosquito bites, so there are still bug dangers to consider. If there is snow outside, you do want to be sure that the snow isn't too wet and is like really melty, because rabbits should never be completely soaked or wet. Especially like with rain, you wouldn't want your rabbit to be rained on. I know this sounds a little bit overkill. You're gonna be like, oh, what do wild rabbits do? But there's a reason that we don't bathe our rabbits. Rabbits should not be completely wet especially for long periods of time. It can actually cause them to become very, very sick. There's cases where rabbits get pneumonia. Having them play in really, really wet, damp environments is not good for them. So something a lot of people asked me about were leashes. Some people let their rabbits outside on a harness or with like a leash attached. Personally, I would never do it. But first off, never ever ever put a collar on your rabbit like you would a cat or a dog. There is so many dangers on this, especially if your rabbit was unattended with a collar on. There are harnesses that go around the neck and then around the body. Some have mesh on them, some are just pieces of leash type thing. There is a lot of things to consider if you were to use this with your rabbit. Obviously, if any sort of tension is put on the leash, like you either tugged on it or the rabbit started to run and jerked, this can actually be very dangerous for their delicate spine. Rabbits have a lot of tiny, tiny little bones, and they can break them very easily. Rabbits who break their spine can actually die. Honestly, that kind of scares me. Another thing is when rabbits feel tension on a leash, a lot of the times they will freak out because they don't understand what that means. This can cause them to bolt and like try to run, which obviously is going to jerk the leash, causing a lot of pressure on their neck and their abdomen, which of course can cause a lot of damage. So long story short, I would never use a harness. I have in the past, and because of my personal experience and the facts I just mentioned, I would never do it again. However, I have seen many of my friends who I think are very good rabbit owners. I've seen them use harnesses and leashes before, and I don't think they're bad rabbit owners for doing so. However, I do know they have the knowledge to use them properly. So I'm not saying you're a bad rabbit owner if you do this. I just personally wouldn't. So another topic is strollers. I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard of this, but there is a lot of people who have strollers for their rabbits. They just buy dog strollers or cat strollers and they put their bunnies in them. They either take them for a walk, or you know, a lot of people come to Bunfest with their rabbits in strollers. I personally don't see a problem with strollers as long as the temperature outside is within those safe limits. I don't find an issue. I would keep it zipped up so that no bugs are getting in. I personally think it would be a very good tool to use when you're bonding your bunnies. It's kind of it's a moving stimuli. It's a little bit stressful for your rabbits, so it would help your two rabbits seek comfort from each other. Like I mentioned, it can be very stressful for some bunnies. I see a lot of rabbits who are in strollers breathing very, very rapidly, which is definitely a sign of anxiety and stress. So personally, because of that, I don't put my rabbits in strollers because I don't think it's fun for them to be stressed out. If I was bonding and needed that little bit of movement and a little bit of stress to help the bunnies get along, I wouldn't be opposed to it. So yeah, a very good tip is to bring the outside inside. So there's many ways you can do this. You can grow grass inside and let your rabbits eat it, or play in it. Make sure that it is a safe grass that they can eat. You can bring sticks like willow sticks, have your rabbits chew on them. You can provide tunnels, which mimics rabbits tunneling underground. There's tons of options online to buy tunnels for bunnies. So to wrap it all up, rabbits do not need to go outside. They are perfectly happy indoors. If you are going to let them outside, you need to use extreme caution and take the precautions necessary to keep them safe and healthy. For those of you wondering my personal opinion on all of this, I know I've kind of shown it in this video, but my personal decision is I do not house rabbits outside, obviously, and I do not let my rabbits play outside. I have in the past let my rabbits outside. You guys probably know I've had videos back like years ago of my rabbits outside. I've had pictures of my bunnies outside. However, since then, I have learned a lot more about the dangers of rabbits being outside, and personally, it's not worth it to me to let them outside and expose them to all of that. So I have chosen just not to do it. I have on occasion taken my rabbits outside to take pictures. For example, I did take my rabbits outside for my senior portraits back when I was in high school. I really wanted my rabbits in my senior portraits, so I did do that. I don't regret it. I think those were very special pictures to me, and I'm not saying I wouldn't ever again take my rabbits outside for a quick photo. So that is basically it. I know this video is very controversial. There's people who strongly believe rabbits should be housed outside, and they will give you 100 reasons, like vitamin D from the sun and all of these things. And then there's people who are more like me, who would never ever let their rabbits outside. And then there's people in the middle who are completely fine letting the rabbits play outside, but they house their bunnies inside. So There's people on different ends of the spectrum, so I do know I'm gonna get probably a lot of hate comments on this video. However, I just want you to know I'm not trying to argue with anyone. I'm basically stating the facts and what I know to be true. So that's basically it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed and learned something. Leave a comment down below if you have any further questions on this video or outside and bunnies. I'll try my best to answer some of them. Please do not be rude or mean to anyone in the comments. That's basically it for this video. Don't forget to like this video if you want to see more videos like this in the future, and hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon on a new video. Bye!